All right, my peoples, how na day? Welcome to another episode of Corporate Junky. I am your man, CJ. Okay, so let's talk about this conversation that I think is a conversation that's been floating around for the last week, and I want to lend my voice and give you my analysis on this because it is one of those things that I believe are moves that the West and Europe have done in the past to consistently keep Africa under. So we're talking about this idea of the United States planting a base now in Nigeria. Nigeria now is a target. And it's something that has been going on for the last week. It's a conversation that has been going on. And I've been researching this, and I want to give you guys a very comprehensive look at this. Because I think that every African, everyone should be really concerned about this. You know, the days are gone where the West and Europe would do things under our noses because only a few, media will carry these things and it will distort this stuff, not making the public aware of the real deal. But the days of social media now exposes a lot of things, right? So a lot of people are able to gain access to information really quickly and gain access to what other mainstream media would like to distort or hide. So you have alternative news like my platform that will give you information and tell you what you need to look at. So things are different. It's not the days back in the days, right? Where the West will corrupt our leaders. The Europe will corrupt our leaders under our noses. And before we find out, it's usually like decades later on after the damage has been done. So anyway, I want to bring you guys update on the conversation regarding this whole notion of planting a military base in Nigeria. Can you imagine that? Of all places, a sovereign nation, the largest black nation on the planet, Nigeria. The U.S. now wants to plant and put a base in Nigeria. So let's talk about this. You know, we're gonna have a good conversation, but let me give you guys. Let me read some coverage on this, and we'll have a great conversation regarding this. So, according to Business Insider Africa, it says U.S. and French government are lobbying Nigeria to host their military bases. This was released on May 4th. So it says the American and French government are reportedly lobbying Nigerian and other regional countries to sign new defense agreements, allowing them to redeploy expelled troops. These are troops that have been expelled by Niger, Chad, and Mali. So now they want to go find a new home. And Nigeria apparently is where they're lobbying. Said there have been recent concerns about the likely relocation of U.S. and French military bases from the Sahel to Nigeria. In an open letter addressed to President Bola Tinubu and the National Assembly, northern leaders cautioned the Nigerian government against succumbing to any military pressure from the Americans and French government. The military presence of U.S. on the continent is diminishing, evidenced by its recent withdrawal of troops from Chad. Last month, U.S. troops exited neighboring Niger following orders from the country's junta. In their place, Russian military instructors have arrived in Niger as part of a new agreement with the military leaders. So go talk about that. Because I will tell you that that's why U.S. is trying to do this. It's the presence of, the Wagner group, right, in Niger and in these places that recently had coup last year. So there's a military strategy. But we'll talk about why Nigeria though. Okay. The Americans and French governments have allegedly been lobbying Nigeria and other regional countries to sign new defense agreements, allowing them to redeploy expelled troops. Now, according to the letter, the northern leaders voiced apprehension regarding the economic and environmental consequences of hosting foreign military bases. And it talks about the letter. So we're not going to go into all of that, but I just wanted to give you some quick snapshot on that. Now, Vanguard News reports says military bases will bring Nigeria into confrontation with other superpower. Bolaji Akinyemi reports. This is on May 10th. Now, former Minister of Foreign Affairs Bolaji Akinyemi has rejected the proposed establishment of the United States and French military bases in Nigeria, saying the development could bring Nigeria into confrontation with other superpower. That makes sense, right? Right? because basically the enemies of the United States become an inherited enemies for Nigeria if this goes through. So that's a great point. The former Minister of Foreign Affairs added that such a move will maximize Nigeria's problem. He says, I am shocked about the development and I hope it is not true. We have a long history about attempt at installing a military base in Nigeria. This will not be the first time there will be an attempt to have a military base in Nigeria if it is true that there is such an attempt. The last thing Nigeria wants is to have a military base by a superpower in counterpoise to another superpower, because in a way, Russia moving into Niger, into Mali, into Burkina Faso, the United States moving into Nigeria brings us into confrontation with each other. And the last thing we need is that. I know that we have problems with the jihadists, with ISIS, and we have security problems, but the solution is not for us to be confrontational with another superpower. We will maximize our problem. Therefore, I hope it is not true, he says. Now, King Yemi said France and the United States have not been beneficial in the Sahel, adding that otherwise countries like Chad and Niger will not have asked the United States to withdraw their troops from their country. Great point. Great point, right? Okay, here is Sputnik, Africa. This is as of May 7th. It says Nigeria denies plans to host any foreign military bases on the soil. So basically, all these things have been going on for the last week. So Nigeria now comes out to deny that this is not true. So here's an update on that. On May 6th, the People's Renaissance Party, PRP, issued a statement warning against the relocation of U.S. and French military bases in Nigeria. Nigeria denies plans to host foreign military bases on its soil, according to the Nigerian Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris' statement on social media. Rumors about the installation of the foreign bases are falsehood, he says. The federal government is not in any such discussion with a foreign country. We have neither received nor are we considering any proposal from any country to establish any foreign military bases in Nigeria, he stressed. All right, so let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this, because this is now becoming a he say, she say, right? So the Nigerian foreign ministry, Nigeria's, what was the guy's title again? The Nigeria Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, comes to debunk the rumors, apparently that's what they're calling it, that this is happening. So he debunks that this is not true. That all the stuff that people are talking about is not true. There is no such talk. There's no such discussion about U.S. coming to plant a base. That's the most recent one. On the other hand, there's all this circulation going on. So who are we to believe? Now, the problem with this administration is that there have been situations where these administrations have said things and have come out later on and people have debunked that that is not true. They have falsely reported on situations, so you don't know who to believe on that front. But nonetheless, I'm not going to discount his statement to debunk that, because he is the information minister, right? If anyone should know, it should be him. But on the other hand, we have this thing floating around that the U.S. wants to plant a base. Now, here's the question I've got. Here's the question I got. What is it about the United States, the West, and Europe? What is it about these people that they can't seem to stay in their own territory, and they feel the need to want to police everyone else? What is it about? Someone please help me understand it, because that's the part I want to talk about. What is it about the United States and its policy and its people and Europe, France, that they can't seem to just police their own place and stay in their own region, that they have to go plant bases, military bases in other sovereign nations under the guise that they want to curb, terrorist organization? And which we know in the past, and I've talked about this in the past, that the whole war on terrorism, which was started by the Bush administration, was a ploy to really steal resources from neighboring countries. Those things have not really worked out for the U.S. If anything, it has created more extreme groups because of that. There is talk that ISIS was created by the United States, that the United States was funding ISIS, that they claim to be fighting today. A lot of the extreme groups that they seem to want to fight or claim that they're fighting were created by these countries. So my question again, and maybe someone from someone from the white community, I don't know what is it about white people. What is it about them that they can't stay in their own region? They can't stay in their own region. They have to go police other places. A nation like Nigeria with over 220 million people, 220 million, the largest African nation in the entire world, the largest African military in the entire world, will somehow need you to come in with your own troop to combat terrorism. That's the part that's the part that I'm struggling with. Why do you think that is your problem? Why do you think that somehow that is your problem? And they do this. This is a strategy. This is a strategy because obviously we know that Russia and China has been giving the likes of the United States and many other European countries and also England a lot of sleepless nights. They hate the involvement of China in Africa. The fact that China has gained a lot of footprint in Africa with the projects that China has been undergoing for the last decade or so. They know that China has curbed that market. And to them, Africa being their stronghold, because they can't let Africa go. Africa is a problem, but Africa is a gold mine for them. Which one is it? They can't let Africa go. So China and Russia is a problem. And the fact that French government, France, has been stealing from Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, a lot of their once colonized region for years. These people finally say, hey, enough is enough, and drove them out through the coups that we've seen over the last few years, and kicked them out. Say, get out of here. You haven't helped us. You brought more problems to us. Now they want to relocate and say, hey, let's go find another place that we can plant our base. And even more, because Russia has gained now the friendship and partnership with these regions. And so now Africa is the playground for these guys to battle each other. Right? And then I'm talking to Nigeria. Oh, let's plant it here. What is it? Again, please, someone help me understand this. But better question is, maybe there's a better question. Can someone please tell me what country in the West that there are African troops that are being planted in the West as a reciprocal exchange of these types of dealings? Someone help me understand. Where in the US or Europe or in England are there any bases that represent African military soldiers planted in their bases on the same reason that they're trying to give for these action they do in Africa? Someone give me the country, because I don't, maybe I forgot it. Someone please help me understand which country is there, or which country in US or which territory around the West do we have Nigerian troops planted over there to help the US, curb terrorist organization? Someone help me understand. Someone help me understand which countries in England we have, African troops from any other African nation, Rwanda, Senegal, anywhere that are used to really curb or help this way. Someone tell me if there's a military base. The answer is you won't find one, because Africans don't deal like that. We don't infringe on other people. But you find this country, you find these part of the world, they can't seem to stay on their own part. They got to infringe on other people. It has been something they've been doing for since they gained some type of power. They began gaining some type of power and dominance in the world. They got to control everybody. They did it with their religion. Okay, so you all got Christianity. You all got to. This is the religion you all have to follow now. They got to convert the entire world. They did it with their language. Everyone got to speak English. Forget what you're speaking. Forget your mother tongue. Forget your own dialect. You got to speak English. They did it with their own economic system. Okay, Capitalism is the way of life. You gotta you gotta go with capitalism. Forget whatever monetary system, forget whatever economic system. As a matter of fact, this country went to huge extent in the early 90s to dismantle countries that practiced communism, socialism. They demonized their whole thing and say, oh, that is so bad. They went after Venezuela, they went after Cuba, they went after a lot of places. Communism is bad, capitalism is the way, you got to do this. Otherwise, we sanction it, destroy those economies. The only two economies that they cannot touch, and trust me, they tried, they couldn't touch it, is China and Russia, who still have a form of communism. They won't touch those countries because they know that the superpower and the might in those countries, they can't touch it. But they got to spread the whole way. So, so what is it about this part of the world? They can't stay in their own region. We know in Africa today has been a source of power, the source of food, funding, mineral resources to this part of the world. They've become rich, wealthy at the expense of Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not enough that they went to Africa and stole all their resources, and they're still doing that today to fatten their whole pockets, their banks, the economy, their livelihood. It's not enough. Now they got to put a military base over there. So that way, when Nigerians wake up every morning, just like Nigerians and people from Mali and Chad, when they see military tanks, foreign military tanks parading their borders. Can you imagine? Can you just think about that scene for a second? They see foreign tanks. And when you look at places that U.S. has gone to, so-called places that they've gone to plant military base, those places have had civil unrest over the years. Those places have had nothing but fight and turmoils over the years, because a lot of these people, what the strategy is, they create a lot of the insurgencies. They create the insurgencies. First, they plant a base, and then they'll find groups that either have a gripe. That's what they've been doing for years. If you don't know this, let me help you understand this. They'll find groups that have a gripe. So let's say, for example, Nigeria right now. Let's say, for example, these happen, right? They plant a base in Nigeria. They'll find a group. Let's see. What group is in Nigeria that we can infiltrate? So Nigeria has been having this thing with a part of its country, the region. They'll look for the Biafra group, right? They will look for that situation. These people have been having a gripe against the country. That's a great one. And they'll infiltrate that. They will infiltrate it to spark and use it as a proxy war against the country. They'll fund them underground military weapons. They will put in their ears things. They will stoke the fire of that group to where now you now begin to see internal insurgencies between Biafra and Nigeria, knowing damn well that all of us, no matter what you think about Biafra, no matter what you think about that, no one will call that organization a terrorist organization. No one. No one will call it. This is a people that believe that they are being marginalized in the country, right? But no one will deem them or demonize that to be a terrorist organization. But leave it to the West. You're going to find them label Biafra as terrorist organization. Even where this is a people that are just having a gripe that they're not treated, or the wealth of the nation is not properly being spread all over the place. Regardless of what you think about that group, regardless. I'm not here to defend or not defend the group. That's not the point. The point I'm saying is that you'll find gripes in everywhere. There's even gripes in this country with the organizations in this country. They don't like what the federal government is doing. They don't like how the federal government is handling things. Do they label them terrorists? No, they don't. You'll find them in every country. But if this were to go through, I guarantee you, they will infiltrate that group. And over the years, you hear propaganda over there to where now they will become labeled as terrorist organization that will need to be curbed. that will reinforce why now they need to be there. All of a sudden, Nigeria now is a terrorist breeding ground when Nigeria has never been that. This is the plan. So Nigeria now, on top of the propaganda that Nigeria has suffered over the years, this will cause even a worse propaganda against that nation. Not to mention the point that was made that it will also bring Nigeria in opposition to other superpowers. So now Nigeria will become enemy number one to Russia. And Nigeria has never had any history against Russia. Nigeria now becomes enemy number one to China. Nigeria and China never have any issue. Nigeria now becomes enemy number one to many superpowers who will see Nigeria as a terrorist organization. Why? Because of these so-called decision or talk of planting a military base. So I'm glad that Nigeria is smart enough to be like, no. First of all, they said, no, this is not true. And even if it were, Nigeria is not going to go for this. Nigeria ain't going for that. Because Nigeria is too smart for this. They've not always made smart decisions, but overall, Nigeria is smarter than this. And Nigeria, no. And Nigerian people weren't going for that. They're like, nah, nope, it's not going to happen. Not in this era where we have social media and we can then disperse and shine a light on all this. No, it's not going to happen. U.S. military base, let me help you understand it right now. There hasn't been anywhere that the U.S. has planted their base and that region has fared well. There's never been. It has caused problems. First of all, they ain't going to fight your battle for you. This idea that they're not going to fight your battle. The United States ain't going to go into a war that Congress and its people haven't really blessed. Did not find out. Did not fight. Not to mention that's against the Geneva Convention anyway. For you to start fighting other people's war, unless the U.S. is actually in a war with a country, they ain't about to deploy their troops to fight that country. So they will do proxy wars all day long. Where they will stoke divisions, provide military weapons so you can kill yourselves. So there hasn't been any place that they've gone to that have really curbed the terrorist organization. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. They were there for 20 years and they ran. Look what happened over there. These so-called war on terrorism that we're going to fight, look at what happened there. They were there for over 20 years. And they had their asses handed to them. And they ran and left that place. For 20 years. So-called war on terrorism, they didn't even do anything over there. Just wasted taxpayers' money, wasted time, all of that. Some people got rich off of it. Of course, defense contractors got rich, which is usually the situation. But they ran. Look at what they're doing in the Sahel. Look at how they've destabilized that whole place. And now the idea that they will come to Nigeria and somehow provide military protection. You see, it's always the same old BS. Will help you curb terrorism. But you didn't do it in Afghanistan. Will help you. Where has there been a success of you doing this? Where has there been a success of the U.S. going into and somehow providing and trying to curb terrorist organization that they claim exists in those areas? And they've really been successful. Where? Somebody help me understand this. To where you now want to go to a nation with over 220 million black people who own their own military, their own navy, their own army. You talk about you want to what? Listen, again, I'm asking the question. What is it about the West and this part of the region that they can't just stay on their own corner? The arrogance that you think that you can go there. Over the years, they've been doing this now. Now the arrogance that you will go there and provide them military training. Do you understand? I mean, Nigeria sends military forces to Syria alone to help them. And they help them during the whole civil unrest. This is the people that you want to go provide military training? What are you talking about? No. The whole thing is a strategy to have Nigeria under the nose of a gun. To have Africa under the nose of a gun. So at any moment, they can threaten Nigeria with coup. They can threaten Nigeria with war. They can bring Nigeria to its knees because Nigeria is a threat. Let me help you now understand why they are trying to do this. Let me help you understand, and I'm going to close. The reason why they're doing this whole military base, because now they know that it's not going to happen in Nigeria. They will go to a neighboring country. Togo ain't going to happen. So Niger didn't happen. Niger borders Nigeria. They might get it with Ghana. You know, because Ghana always likes to please the West. No matter, they might get it with Ghana. That'll be the place they'll go. So they're not going to let out. Understand they're not going to let out with this. Nigeria says no, they'll go to somewhere else. But they'll get close. Let me tell you why they're trying to do this. Nigeria is a threat to Western imperialism in the world. Nigeria is. Nigeria has been gaining momentum over the years. Forget what you're hearing in the news. There's a coordinated effort to demonize Nigeria. You see, the propaganda they had on Nigeria over the 90s, in the early 2000s, the whole scamming thing, that whole thing has wore out. That's wore away. No one believes that anymore. You have a few idiots on the internet that still, no one believes that anymore. Nigeria has been able to move past that and has gained economically. Nigeria has been projected by Goldman Sachs to be the 5th largest economy by 2075. Nigeria, but in the next 6 years, will have $1 trillion GDP growth. Nigeria, with economists, have seen a steady rise with this country. That this is going to be the most important, if not today, it is, but certainly in the future, the most important large country where there's a concentration of black people. And they're going to have a position and they can be able to demand and move needles forward. Nigeria is a threat to the West and Europe. So all the propaganda they've had it over the 90s is wore out. And because of social media and the power of social media and the information that people are getting now about, it has boosted and it has given a new boost to that country, to where the country is rising faster than predicted. They got to curb that. They got to curb that because for some reason the West sees black people as people they need to enslave. And then when you have the largest concentration of a black people in one country who are known to the world as excellent doctors, engineers in the science, in the skill set that is needed for the new future, these people possess that. They're going to be a formidable people. Because anyone knows that the way to move people out of poverty is in science and technology. That's where you move people out of poverty. When you have the largest concentration of black people in a country whose citizens all over the world are really breaking strides and they're producing lawyers, doctors, engineers, scientists, coders every day, that is a threat to the grip that the West and Europe have had on Africa for years. Nigeria is the country that's going to save the black race. They know this. They know this. So let's plant a base so that way we can threaten them with military might and bring them under subjection, because obviously all the other stuff we've done is worn out. This is why they're trying to do this. Nigeria is a target. Nigeria is a target. Now, of course, they're going to use Russia's presence in China as an excuse. Oh, the Wagner Group or terrorist organization, and because of that, they will use that. But the main reason is to bring Africa to submission. And Nigeria is the one African country that is a saving grace for the entire continent. And so if we can bring this one country with the largest black people into submission, conquer them, we can definitely keep robbing Africa like we've been doing for years. That is the strategy. So let's plant a base. And over the years, we'll push our propaganda that will definitely bring a new type of stereotype against Nigeria, terrorist organization, breeding ground for terrorism. That is a stench that Nigeria may very well not be able to get away from. If they start labeling Nigeria as that, that is certainly going to kill Nigeria's economic prospect. That is the ploy here. That is the play. And so this administration better wake up and better understand what is going on, because these guys are playing chess that will last for the next 100 years. They're not playing checkers here. So this administration better understand what they're doing. that partnership with the likes of US by putting a base is the wrongest move for your entire country and for your entire continent? The answer is no. Go and police your own country. Go and police your own region. Don't worry about what's going on here. We got it. We're good. This idea of, oh, we want to help you with the where have you really solved that issue? Where? Not to mention the homegrown terrorism that they have in their own country that they still can't keep it, they can't put a handle on. But you want to go over to other regions and tell them what to do? Okay. So anyway, I hope that Nigerians will continue to lend their voices and push back at this imperialist movement, an agenda from the West and Europe. Leave Africa alone. Africa has been existing for thousands of years before you were born, before you were created. It's going to be here after you're done. Africa is going to be the only continent that's going to exist after when all of them have killed each other. You know, when all of these people that fight each other, Asia, the West, Europe, when they've all destroyed each other, Africa will be the only continent that's going to exist. Africa ain't going nowhere. Africa is the cradle of life. Africa is the origin of life. Africa ain't going nowhere. Which is why all the propaganda and demonization of Africa, that continent is still existing. With all the looting they've done over the years, that continent is still existing. And they're still latching on Africa because they need Africa for a source of power. Africa ain't going nowhere. Africa doesn't need you militarily. Africa doesn't need you economically. Africa doesn't need you. Apparently, you need Africa. Stay in your own region and police your own area. Africa doesn't need your military support. And I hope that Africans and Nigeria most especially will continue to speak up against this. So that way nothing like this is done under the carpet or under our noses. And we'll continue to lend our voices. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like the video, share the content, subscribe to the channel.
Nu vill jag kunna ge tillbaka allt jag inte kunnat ge förut. Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. På det jag lägger all min tid och jag vill ha dig. Du får mig känna safety. Det kan nog leda baby. Och jag kommer aldrig ändra mig.